Welcome to Skip the Queue, a podcast for people working in or working with visitor attractions. I'm your host, Kelly Molson. Each episode, I speak with industry experts from the attractions world. In today's episode, I speak with Katie Weller, Travel Trade Sales Manager at the National Gallery. We discuss the process of developing new paid-for guided tours, making the gallery inclusive for all, and how travel trade works for attractions. If you like what you hear, subscribe on all the usual channels by searching Skip the Queue. Katie, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It's lovely to meet you.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
Me too. We've been chatting for a little while on LinkedIn, haven't we? So I'm glad that we've got this booked in the diary now. So I'm going to ask you loads of questions. We've got something really exciting to talk about. But first, icebreaker question.
Yes, go for it.
Okay. What sport would you compete in if you were in the Olympics?
Oh gosh, that's a hard one, isn't it? I'm actually rubbish at sports. What would I go for? I was always good at javelin. Is that a sport?
Yeah.
Can I compete in that?
Absolutely.
Let's go for it. I'm going javelin.
All right. I like it. Take your anger out.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Last place that you went on holiday.
Oh, we went to Mykonos in Greece.
Lovely.
Well, so it was supposed to be, so I'm getting married in a couple of months. And so it was my hen do. And we managed to do the hen, but not the wedding. I was happy with that, as long as exactly. And do you know what? It was just so lovely to get on a plane and travel again. So yeah, we had a brilliant time, spent way too much money. But yeah, absolutely fantastic.
Oh, lovely. What a treat. I bet you had a whale of a time.
Oh, we did.
We won't ask because what goes on in hen stays on hen.
Exactly. I think it's for the best.
All right. If you could choose any two famous people to have dinner with, who would they be?
Oh, gosh. Leonardo DiCaprio, just because he's always been my number one. I'd always have him at the table there. And the second one, who would I choose? Does it have to be someone alive?
No, it can be anyone you want.
I would go for Van Gogh.
Wow. I
mean, it would be a bit of a messy dinner party, but I think he would just be so amazing to talk with, try and get into his brain. But yeah, I'm going to go Van Gogh and Leo. What a party.
What party.
Do you want an invite?
Will there be cocktails?
I think we'll need it.
I'm there. All right, Katie, what is your unpopular opinion?
Oh, do you know what? I've really been thinking about this, and I didn't think it was an unpopular opinion, but it clearly is, and I've got a lot of passion about it. Crocs should stay in hospitals. I can't even look at them. They're just the most ugliest shoes. How last year they were like trending number one. Why people put them on their feet, it really upsets me. You will never, ever see me in Crocs.
Wow, that is a massive passion.
Can you feel my anger? This is why I want to do javelin.
Now, listen, I'm just going to say I should probably hook you up with Michelle from Eureka, the National Children's Museum, because she was very passionate about wearing Crocs with socks at work.
Well, she wants to do that.
No, she does. She does do that. Yeah. No,
I mean, each to their own, but not for me.
All right. Okay.
Let's plastic clogs.
They are. Let's see what our listeners feel about that. I think there might be a few people that agree with you on that one.
Yeah, I think since lockdown, a lot of people went in that direction, but yeah, not for me. Sorry, guys.
Thing. Okay. Love it. Katie, tell me a little bit about your background before we get on to what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, so really I've been in arts and tourism for about 20 years, which makes me feel really old now. So I started off as just a theatre steward, so working in the local theatres, and I loved it. How cool to be able to get paid and just watch shows. And back then I thought I was going to be an actor, and obviously life changes. You realise you need to get paid. So I didn't end up going down that route, but I always had a passion for it. So in terms of getting involved in sort of travel trade, that was a bit later on. I was a PA for a very famous boy band, Westlife, if you've heard of them. So I've had lots of random jobs as well. But yeah, it was the Globe Theatre. So I was a tour guide there for quite a few years and absolutely loved it. And that's really where I started sort of finding out about travel trade. We attended a few shows. And then from there, I started at Royal Museums Greenwich. And that's where I really started my career, built up, all of my contacts and really got to learn about travel trade. And just loved it. It's such a niche thing, and a lot of people don't understand what travel trade is and how it works. But
actually, for the benefit of our listeners that might not know, can you explain what that actually means?
Definitely. So you'll actually find in a lot of attractions, they have a travel trade and groups department. So travel trade works on a business to business basis. So we would push our products through third party platforms. So I don't know if I'm allowed to mention names on here, but
yeah, go for it.
Like Virgin Experience Days or Viator or Golden Tours. I'm not pulling out favourites at all here, but it just means that you're pushing out your reach to new markets, new audiences that you wouldn't necessarily get in otherwise. You pay them a commission, and in return they push out your marketing, they'll do campaigns for you, and they just drive in different people. So yeah, most attractions have a travel trade team, but a lot of people just don't really understand what it is. But it's a huge, income driver to attractions.
Yeah. Great explanation.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it made perfect sense. And I also really appreciate that you thought we were a little bit like the BBC there and you couldn't mention other brands on it. So
I know. Well, just in case, I'm going to get other partners ringing me now. Like, why didn't you mention me? Sorry.
All right, so this is really exciting. So we had a little chat on LinkedIn quite a while ago, actually, now, isn't it? We've been trying we were chatting. But National Gallery, where you are now,
yes,
is launching paid for guided tours, which are geared towards kind of tourist, domestic and international.
Mm-hmm.
This is really exciting because the National Gallery is a free gallery, so you don't need to pay to go into there. So this is quite a new thing that they're launching. How did this idea come about?
So it's a bit of a long story. I mean, with the National Gallery, yes, it's always been free of charge. However, it can be for, not just for an international customer, for a domestic one as well. If you're not necessarily an art buff, you can walk inside the gallery. It can be quite overwhelming because you don't really know where to start, what to look at. So we know there is a demand for tours because they're coming in anyway. So they're coming in. So other tour companies are charging the customers and they're coming in and doing tours. So the issue with that, I mean, it's great because there's a demand there and we know people want to be educated, and that's what we want to do. We want to educate them on our amazing collection. However, sometimes with that, it means that we haven't really got any quality control over what's being said. A lot of people think they're buying an official National Gallery tour and it's not. So we get customers coming through to us. So for us, how it all came about really is my head of department, Claire. She looks after events and our catering team as well. And next year we're closing our Sainsbury wing. So the entrance is actually going to be the portico terrace. So the beautiful steps going up, only because we're just completely redeveloping that side of the gallery. And it means that we lose a lot of our daytime space. So we would normally get a lot of income coming through from daytime hire. That's going to be lost. So she thought, do you know what? Let's bring in travel trade. We actually worked together at Royal Museums Greenwich. So she was head of events there. And she just saw the benefit that travel trade had. And she knew there's a demand for tours. So she just decided, let's get up and running. So it wasn't really anything off the back of COVID or, it was always there as a plan because we knew we had those closures coming up.
That's interesting. Yeah, because that was going to be one of my questions, actually. Was this something that came out of COVID? Because obviously being a free museum during that time, really difficult. You've got additional challenges that some of the paid institutes might not have had in terms of like raising funding and keeping the building and the paintings safe and looked after. So yeah, it's really interesting that hasn't come from that, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But I guess, an element of it has been about customer feedback, right? Like you said, there is a demand for it because people are already booking tours elsewhere.
Well, yeah, and they're paying anything between £10. You'll be amazed at what has been pushed out there. PDFs, where customers pay £10 for a PDF and walk around. So that's what I mean about the quality. You think we want to mirror a high quality tour, in line with the National Gallery, but some people are paying up to £400 for a tour. that's happening in the day.
Okay.
So, we want to make sure that it's a fair price, but we're delivering a top quality experience as well.
Yeah.
And, I think people, yes, we are free of charge, but, the British Museum, they do the same thing. So you do have tours, paid for tours as well. And, I'm a tourist. I'm such a tourist. When I go abroad, I always pay for a tour because I think it's the best way. You've got an hour, for example. I mean, the international market, they're very tight on time. They've got 1 hour. What's the best way to do it? Actually, not everyone wants to do the free thing where you walk through. People want to have a better understanding of, where they are.
Yeah, that's interesting that you mentioned the time thing, isn't it? Because if you've just got that restriction, you would want someone to show you the best of the best. What I'm coming to this gallery, what is the best thing that I need to see while here? Well, like, what's the thing that I can't leave without seeing? And actually, if you're kind of left to your own devices, you might not find it. You might not know where it is, and your time is then gone.
Exactly. So I just think, with the guided tours, we're really going to ensure that it is a highlights tour. You could go on a tour with a curator, or you could have a bespoke experience. Most of these tourists, they just want to get a sense of the gallery. They want to hear brilliant stories that you just can't pick out of a book, or, let's talk about the fun stuff. I said to the Blue Badge guides, I was like, sex, drugs, rock and roll. I was like, that's what they want to hear. I was like, maybe not too extreme. It is the National Gallery. But, let's tell them just brilliant stories, and they'll leave. And, when you go on tours, do you remember the dates? Not really. You remember the amazing stories that they tell you. So, yeah, the guides have been brilliant at putting this all together. And we've sort of left them to their own devices because they've got their knowledge far exceeds mine. So, yeah. Really, really looking forward to pushing them out.
It's really, the stories thing is something that keeps coming up and up again on the podcast. We just spoke to Kelly Wessel from London Zoo, and she was kind of talking about the visitor experience and engaging people back, like their team back to the zoo, getting them to fall back in love with the zoo. And she was saying that it is the stories that they know that makes people's experience better on the day. And it's only the stories that the team know, like little things about, I don't know, the giraffe house and how that was constructed. Exactly. And it's those stories that make the visit more memorable for people. And that's what people are looking for, isn't it? To make that more kind of personalised and more special.
Well, that's it. It's about personalisation, and it does make them feel special because they probably think they're, they might be the only person that's been told that. And also the Blue Badge guides, we've said to them, it's flexible. If you want to tell a different story on a different tour, that's absolutely fine. Obviously, they keep to a bit of a structure, but if they've got something cool to tell, go for it.
So their tours. So how have they been developed? Like, what does that? You decide we need a tour. How do you work out what are the highlights that people need to see on this tour?
Yeah, so it's been 6 months in the making. I don't know why I gave myself this goal. I was like, April, that's the goal. I think it's beginning of financial year. You go, yeah, that's fine. But obviously it's quite hard to push out something new, especially in a gallery as well. So everything can be a bit, bit slower, I guess. And, it has to be approved at so many different levels. But really, starting off with the tours, initially, we'd love to have kept it in-house. But of course, the resource isn't available at the moment. So we decided, all right, second best thing is to use the Blue Badge guides. They've just got such a wealth of knowledge and they're accredited. Tourists trust them. They know what a Blue Badge guide is. And the joy of having the Blue Badge guides is that there's such a large pool of them. They can speak in different languages. So it means that we can offer, multi-language tours as well if you're a private group. And they guide inside the gallery anyway. So they know the space very well. And they were so excited at this opportunity. I think we went to a show. It was a trade show on the Strand, and it was just a happy accident that I bumped into a lovely Blue Badge guide called Sarah, and she said, "Oh, you're from the National Gallery." I said, "Oh, well, actually, I'm looking for some Blue Badge guides." She was like, "Right, that's it. I'm your main contact going forward." And she's been Sarah Reynolds, her name is, and she's been brilliant at. I just gave her a brief and I just said storytelling. I know I keep going back to this, but I was like, you need to tell great stories. I don't want the tourists to be drowned in facts, and let's make it fun for them. In terms of highlights, it's a difficult one, but it is up to the guide. Obviously, we've got some of the most famous paintings in the world. So we've got Van Gogh sunflowers, we've got the Turner. We can't guarantee on any given day that they will necessarily see those pieces of art. So we don't promise that they're going to see those paintings, because the paintings move around quite a lot. We might have room closures depending on what's going on. So the tour is very flexible. So we really do leave it up to them. But as I say, for us, it really is about bringing the gallery to life and, just telling the best stories they can.
Yeah.
But without going into too much depth and it can make people feel unwelcome, and a bit out of their comfort zone if you start going into so much detail.
So this was one of my questions, actually, about accessibility. So I think when we chatted, and what you've mentioned at the start of this chat is that, the National Gallery, it can seem a bit daunting for people, if they're not art buffs, or, they maybe feel that it's not the place for them.
Yeah.
So how, part of what you've described in terms of, accessibility, different languages and things like that, how do you make people feel that these are inclusive for them, that they're going to be, it is for me or for, Joe down the road?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really interesting year in terms of, learning as we go. There's going to be a lot of test and trial. Actually, only last week we had some EDI training, so equality, diversity, inclusivity training that was put on by the gallery, and it really opened my eyes up. It's such a big beast, isn't it? And there's so many things to tackle. So, I think we have to be, it's really important when you push out a product, you've got to keep developing, and you've got to keep, you can't just leave it. It's not done with. So we really need to listen to our customer feedback. How can we make them more inclusive? So I think that would just be a thing as we go, and we will have to develop and change it. We are aware that people have that view of us, and we're actually going to be celebrating NG 200 soon, and we want to change our customer welcome, and we want to make it more friendly. And that's the whole part of, with the Sainsbury wing at the moment, it's not very friendly. It's not a friendly welcome. So we're going to get rid of the big black gates, and we're going to make it more open. It's going to feel a lot more airy in there, whereas at the moment it can be a bit, like you say, a bit daunting, I think, for customers.
Yeah,
we want the gallery to be for everyone, so that's really important.
Yeah, I think that is really important at the moment, because we need to get more people back to seeing these incredible spaces that we have and the incredible artwork that you have. But people they kind of need to see themselves there to be able to do that, don't they?
Yeah, of course. So we get a lot of people coming in lunch breaks as well. So if they work around here, people do just come in on their lunch break, and which is lovely.
That is really nice. That's something that I spoke with John Young about from BVA BDRC, which I might have just said wrong because I always say that wrong. But he was saying how he loves that flexibility of just being able to pop somewhere after work, or because he's in London. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's really nice, isn't it? Like, I'm not in London, so there isn't really anywhere that you just pop to, and like, how lovely would that be, just to be on your lunch break and go, I'm just going to go and look at Van Gogh.
Exactly. Why not? On Mondays with Monet. I think
I love that. Is that a thing? That needs to be a thing.
Yeah, I might do a tour on a Monday. Monday with Monet. I think, it's something, I read an article about this. I think that was yesterday, actually. And they were saying, people aren't traveling into London as much, maybe 2 to 3 times a week. And, because there's that hybrid way of working, which we do at the gallery as well. And when people are in London, actually, they want to make more of their time while they're here. So I think people are starting to do that. And actually, what can I do? I'm in London. I've paid to come in. What else can I do when I'm here? So, yeah, I think there's going to be a bit of a change there. But, yeah, always welcome. Anyone who's around the National Gallery, come in on your lunch break. Come on a tour.
Yeah, I really love that idea. Yeah, do the tour. Monet Mondays.
I mean, like that. Do you reckon I've got something going there?
Just ticked a massive box there.
Copyright.
So you mentioned the Blue Badge team that you're working with. Like, how? And I know that you're leaving it up to them, but there must be some way that you kind of map out like what they have to do, like where they take people around the gallery. Do you have like a loose plan of how you work it out, or is it just like free reign to them to say, like, you know, over to you, what do you think you should deliver to someone?
Yeah, it's definitely been so that, as I say, they've got a structure. However, because the gallery, they, you know, on any given day we might have 10 rooms that are shut, so it has to be flexible. They can't have set routes, so that's really important, because also we're looking at pushing out not only the daytime tours but out of hour exclusive tours as well when we can. So with that, we might have an event being set up, so they might not be able to go in the room that they always go in. So it's really important that they have that flexibility. But they're brilliant at it. And also I've been on the tours, obviously, just to make sure that they are saying what we want to. You know, we can always, again, it's just reviewing as we go along and really listening to the customer and their feedback. And, you know, we can change as we go. But I have full faith in the Blue Badge Guides, because they're just so fantastic at what they do. They've got a huge amount of passion for it. So I can't imagine we'll get many complaints, you know, from people saying, you know, they haven't covered the highlights, because, you know, they've got it. They know what they're doing. It's not in my place to tell them otherwise, but yeah. But no, we will review as we move forward.
Yeah, I love that process. It's about iteration, isn't it? So, you know, you'll run them, you'll run a feedback process and then find out, you know, what your customers are really thinking about it. And then I guess it's a case of just kind of evolving those tours as you go along.
Absolutely. And it's so important to listen, because, you know, what if all of a sudden, well, once international tourism really starts to make a comeback, maybe we can start doing French tours on a Friday. Don't know why I have to make this rhyme, French on Friday. But
I like that you do that.
I know, I've just realised. So, you know, if there's a demand for it, let's go for it. So, yeah, that's really important part of the process for me, just, you know, reviewing that feedback on a really regular basis. And we're doing next week, we're doing staff tours. So I think it's really important. We're driving out this new product. Actually, let the staff be part of it. What do they think? What's their feedback? It's just as important.
That is really, really relevant point, actually, because if they don't know what to expect, they can't answer questions about them either, can they? They don't know what the tour actually holds for them.
Yeah, and communication, you know, working in a big place like the National Gallery, communication is key. And we've actually put together some operational processes in place. We've got some PDFs, so you know, if they've got frequently asked questions from customers, or, you know, they've got something there in front of them. If not, they can obviously come through to me. But that communication element, we've really tried to lay the groundwork now, so there's not so many issues, you know, when the tours do kick off.
Yeah, you mentioned late, so you mentioned like evening, after hours, or when they're not, you know, when the gallery's not open events, which is really exciting. I think that it is such a treat to go somewhere where when it's closed, isn't it, that you're like, oh, you know, nobody's in here, this is exciting. And I know that those lates have worked really well for other organisations as well. So prior to the pandemic, we worked with Eureka and the National Children's Museum, and they ran a series of lates for adults, and they were incredible. Like, they were so much fun, because, you know, it is obviously, it's a children's museum, so all of the galleries are geared towards children and their fun and entertainment, but really the adults just want to get in there and have a bit of a go.
Yeah. So, well, I think, didn't they do that with the dinosaur sleepovers, but they did it for adults?
Absolutely, yes, at the Natural History Museum.
And the Natural History Museum,
yes, and then yoga, they did yoga sessions at the Natural History Museum. And I just think that's such a massive opportunity, isn't it? So what might that be that you're going to start?
So with that, we've had so much excitement. So every time I say, oh, the out of hours tours, you know, people are, since coming out of the pandemic, they want new experiences, and they want to do things which are Instagrammable. So you can go, look at me, I'm in an empty National Gallery. I mean, you might not be empty. We're probably setting up for events, and, you know, there's curators walking around and conservation, but that's all part of the experience. Also, for me, I really thought, you know, we're in central London. There's that beautiful hour between 6 and 7 where a lot of the attractions have closed. People are milling about because they're waiting to go to dinner, or they're waiting to go to the theatre. Actually, let's plot some tours in and, you know, use that time where they can come in and have an absolutely fantastic experience. People are willing to pay a higher price point because it's more exclusive. So I have no doubt that they will do very well. Our partners are so keen to get those up on sale. And yeah, I can't wait. And we will develop other products as we go. But initially, we'll just be pushing out the daytime tours, followed by the out of hours.
Yeah, that's a great time as well, what you said, isn't it? 6 to 7, because it is a bit of a dead time. You know, while, like you said, like you're waiting between stuff, or maybe waiting for the later train home, so it's not as busy. And
we're right in the middle of London, so it's like all these people wandering around. Come in. But again, we're going to make sure that, you know, it really is about that quality experience. So we'll only have 25 people on that tour, which makes it a bit more special as well.
Yeah, I love that level of exclusivity. It does make it feel like a real treat, doesn't it?
Definitely.
All right, so let's talk about benefits. What is this going to bring the gallery? Because it's obviously going to bring in revenue, but it's going to hopefully bring in a new audience.
Well, that's it, isn't it? It's bringing in those new markets, those new audiences, which we wouldn't necessarily be able to target otherwise, or it would be really, really expensive for us to do so. So that's why we use trade, because that maximizes our marketing budget as well. So it will be really interesting to sort of review who is coming in, and, you know, we'll capture all of this data as and when bookings come through, and yeah, we'll just go from there. But I can't remember what your question was now, because I've just gone off.
It was about what is it going to bring the gallery, but I think one of the things that you just mentioned there is about using trade again, and I think this is quite important to highlight, is that because one of the questions that I was going to ask you was, you know, where's the price point for these, and how do you buy them? You know, are they available to buy? Can we go and get a tour now? But you're actually going to sell them through a third party.
Yeah, so I guess it's a little bit different here. Sorry, at the National Gallery, there's no products to necessarily push out, or there is, but through commercial, like the exhibitions, but we don't touch those. So we're basically, or they are using us, I guess, as a bit of a trial to see how it goes with the tours, push them out to trade, iron out any problems, and it would make sense for them to sell it B2C, business to client eventually. So that will probably happen. But initially, if you want to book a ticket, it would be through those trade platforms. Like I said before, Golden Tours, or, you know, Expedia, or, you know, any of those platforms, because I guess it really is probably geared more towards the international market, but it is domestic as well. And something really important to remember, pre-pandemic, the gallery, it was 80% were international tourists, 20% domestic. Obviously, there's been a bit of a change during the pandemic, but it's really important that we don't forget about our international audience.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess it's a good way to trial it working as well, isn't it, rather than committing. So if you think about the process of where attractions have been able to reopen after the pandemic, but it has to be ticket, you know, buy your ticket in advance, sometimes, you know, timed ticketing as well.
Yeah,
that's a big financial commitment to make in terms of like your digital processes. Someone's got to manage that process, get it all up and running. This gives you a way of operating like that, but without those, you know, digital financial commitments until you know that it's working.
Absolutely. And it makes it nice and easy for the team who will then push it out, because everything's done for them. You know, they can just go, okay, that process has worked well, you know, that hasn't, you know, and they will review it. And sure, I'm positive they will push out the tours. It's, you know, when I say to people that we're doing tours, have the National Gallery not got tours anyway? And they do. Sometimes they put on, you know, random free tours, but it's not necessarily advertised. It's this time every day, or you know, so it is sort of as and when people will come in, I'll join this tour. So you know, we just want to put structured tours in place, like most other places do. You know, like the British Museum. We did a lot of benchmarking for the price points. I know you mentioned about those. We do have to be careful because we are free of charge.
Yeah.
But that's why we did a benchmarking exercise, and you know, things might change. We might push these out, and actually those out of hours tours, they might go up in price. They're £35 for the out of hours, which I think is fair. And I think, you know, we don't want to outsell. Is that the right word? Outsell, because you think some people, if we go into like corporate, they've got a lot of money to spend, but actually your general tourist, you know, you don't want to push it out so they it's not attainable.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it doesn't. You want it to not be. It can't be unaffordable to people, especially to a new demographic that you're hoping to bring to the gallery, and that, you know, going back to what we said about making it accessible for more people and for all.
Exactly.
You don't want to kind of outprice yourself, but then also, you know, on the flip side, it is a very exclusive tour. You know, 25 people on a tour, that's very small. That's really kind of exclusive, isn't it, for an out of hours? So you've got to try and get that balance right to what that's going to look like.
And again, it's all test and trial, isn't it? And I think, you know, if they're really in demand and, you know, we can push it up a bit, then, you know, then fantastic, great. But yeah, again, it's just a matter of reviewing it and seeing what happens. But I'm hoping for lots of sold out tours.
I have no doubt there will be. But we're recording this. This is the end of March. We're recording it. It's the 30th of March today. When do the tours go on sale?
They're going on sale. So actually, one of our partners went live yesterday.
Oh, wow.
So you'll see over the next couple of weeks, ticketing will go live. It's been a bit challenging because there's been so many loopholes to go through, and, you know, there was no contracts in place. So I've been working very closely with legal and with finance and putting these processes in place. You know, things that you don't think about when you're developing a product, and we've just had to make sure that we've got that right ahead of going live. And we had to put in a system that would fully support travel trade as well, so for our ticketing, and making sure that we can connect live with the partners. So there's been lots of stuff going on in the background, but the tours start April the 12th.
Oh, amazing. Literally.
And then I decided to get married a few months. I don't know why I did this to myself.
When is the wedding?
June the 6th. I keep forgetting the date. So obviously I'm the whole team at the moment. I am travel trade. So I've already given Claire, my head of department, the heads up. Hope you're available because might need a bit of help. But we'll build and we'll expand, you know, as we get into next year and what have you.
Yeah, definitely. And listen, hopefully you only get married once.
Exactly. Well, let's hope for the best. We got through the pandemic, so.
Katie, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you today. I love the passion and enthusiasm that you've got for this.
Thank you.
Looking forward to coming and visiting as well.
Yes.
But before you go, I always ask our guests to recommend a book. So something that they love, can be a personal choice, can be a work-related book, but yeah, just something that you'd like to share with our listeners.
So this book, you do have to take it with a pinch of salt, but it is such a good talking point. Let me know if you've read it. It's called The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman.
I have not read this.
You have to read this. So basically, in a nutshell, without spoiling too much, the 5 love languages. So everyone, he basically, he's looking at couples, and he says that everyone's got a different love language. So the 5 of them, I've written them down so I don't forget. Words of affirmation. So you might prefer it if your partner, you look lovely today, I love you, blah, you know, that might be your love language. Right. Physical touch. So you might like it if your partner, you know, is very touchy-feely. Acts of service. So if they mow the lawn or, you know, do the washing up. I know for a lot of
all
people,
of these things.
Yeah, you're like everyone. Well, they do say you normally have 2. Quality time. So going out on day trips, going to the beach and stuff like that. Or receiving gifts. So, you know, that might, and they say it fills your love tank. It is a bit cheesy. This fills your love tank. So you normally have 1 or 2 that are your most prominent ones. For me, mine is quality time. Yeah. I love experiences. Yeah. That's why I'm in this industry. Exactly. Love experiences and doing things. But my best friend, hers is acts of service. Oh, if he does the washing up, she is so happy. Her love tank is full to the brim.
This is really funny.
Isn't it?
I've never heard of this before. I'm going to read this. This is really interesting. I mean, mine would definitely be the time one as well. I think, you know, that it's so important. So I guess so you find this out about yourself, and I guess then that sets you on your path of, we need to make time for these things in our relationship.
Well, it's not even, what's really interesting about it is usually you reflect your love language on someone else because you think that's what they want. And this is where communication breakdown comes from. I think the couples that he's talking about, they're in like bad times. And so it's like, how could you actually communicate, you know, he's cleaned up for you, but actually you're not very, oh, cheers, because it's not your love language. But if he'd gone on a date, gone on a day trip with you, that might not mean much to him, but to you, wow. So it's more about understanding what each other's love language is. So actually you might have to do things in a different way to what you would want.
Yeah.
It's really, it's good for a pub chat.
This is absolutely. This is a book to read and then
you can read it in a day as well. Yeah.
I love it. I'm gonna pop out and buy a copy of this. But listeners, if you want to win a copy of this, head over to our Twitter account and retweet this episode announcement with the words "I want Katie's book," and you will be in the chance of finding out your own love language. I feel like this podcast has gone a whole different way.
Oh, I know. I can't wait for you to read it. You have to come to the gallery and we'll go for a lovely coffee and have a chat.
I think that would be a treat, Katie. I'm going to do that. Thank you. Thanks so much for coming on today.
You're so welcome.
Good luck with the tour launch.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks for listening to Skip the Queue. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. It really helps others find us. And remember to follow us on Twitter for your chance to win the books that have been mentioned. Skip the Queue is brought to you by Rubber Cheese, a digital agency that builds remarkable systems and websites for attractions that helps them increase their visitor numbers. You can find show notes and transcriptions from this episode and more over on our website, rubbercheese.com/podcast.